Greetings, programs. This is Wretch. Welcome back to VTM Shadows of New York. And in the last episode, guys, we discovered what Julia's role is as the sole La Sombra representative to the Camarilla here in New York. And that's as somewhat of a customs agent. She speaks with Kindred going in and out of the city, documents their comings and goings. It's definitely on the lower end of typical La Sombra ambition. Let's say that. And we are starting the beginning of Night 3. Let's see where Julia's story goes from here. Slow night? I wish. You're late again, by the way. I hope you have a good excuse. That's our boy Qadir from Coteries of New York. Qadir al-Asmai, the mighty sheriff of New York City, is not happy with me. No wonder. I met him in front of the Elysium 30 minutes later than the time we had agreed on. Yeah, well, Catherine fucking Weiss decided to arrive fashionably late. A likely story. She's supposed to be out of the city. If you think I'm pulling your leg, boss, feel free to check my report. I pass him all of the official papers, the way I do every other night. Qadir stares me down for a good few seconds, and his steely gaze softens. You're serious? Weiss in McDonald's, with the mask and elegant clothes, surrounded by the smell of French fries and hamburger patties? That must have been one hell of a sight. Technically, it was BBB, not McDonald's, but yeah. God, I made such a fool of myself. First thing I did, I quoted somebody calling her a weirdo. I wanted to die on the spot. Serves you right, you walking faux pas. I've been trying to teach you to control your tongue, but you never learn. It's a new guffaw every week with you. Still, there's good news and bad news. The good news is, Catherine has a fondness for vampires of humble beginnings. Probably why she decided to see you in your, shall we say, natural habitat. She's one of those rich art scene assholes who seek out working class cred? I did say something about watching your tongue. The bad news is, she's very astute, so she can recognize a moron like you straight away. You never stood a chance at impressing her. Oh, shut up. You still need me for anything here? I'll get on it straight away. I wouldn't be standing out here chatting with you if I hadn't taken care of my duties. 30 minutes is all it took to finish preparations for the big party. I'm about to see everyone off. Sorry. Couldn't be helped, I suppose. It's more your loss than mine. I just wanted some company tonight, and you could really use the chance to appear here on official duties, so everyone can get to know your face. Heaven knows your fast food job isn't going to get you anywhere. You need to, what do they call it? Hustle? You don't need to tell me that. But it's not like being paraded around for a bunch of blue-blooded douchebags is... He somehow manages to give me a painful nudge in the back without so much as a hint of visible movement. Language, you fool. They're coming out. Just stand here in silence for 5 minutes and focus on not embarrassing yourself any further, will you? Got it. The first two silhouettes appear in the doorway of the art hole. An old man in a wheelchair, pushed forward by his young servant. Haven't seen either of them before. Mr. Payne, the night is still young. Hope you find the rest of it pleasant. Payne. The wheelchair. I've heard about him. Addison Payne. One of the American Camarilla's main connections to the government and Wall Street. Disabled in quite a few ways, he needs a servant to communicate. I'd be full of resentment if I was embraced in this condition, but apparently Payne is nothing but grateful for his immortality. He keeps writing fervent defenses of the traditions and Camarilla customs. Let's go ahead and stay silent. He wordlessly shakes Qadir's hand, but doesn't even deign to acknowledge me. At least his servant gives me a small bow. I return it, and they leave. Qadir turns to the next person leaving. High Regent. Can't wait to see you in your outfit. Oh, it's Aisling. Spare me, Sheriff. These fancy dress parties cause me enough suffering without your help. I can only hope you haven't conspired with Helen to embarrass me with this gift. She points to a shrink-wrapped set of clothes she's carrying inside her coat. Qadir smirks briefly. I didn't have to. As you well know, Prince Panhard displays a considerable foresight in the matter of party planning. Yes, if there's one thing she's deathly serious about, it's frivolities. I hate pronouncing that word, but you guys know what I mean. A recognizable mortal quality, especially for a prince. We ought to celebrate it, not oppose it. Don't worry, Sheriff. I'm a big girl who knows her etiquette. I will play your game, amuse the crowd a little bit, and return to my study as fast as possible. Aisling Sturbridge, High Regent of the Chantry of the Five Boroughs, a hero of the Battle of New York, the biggest warlock in town. Could be a prince herself if she didn't have her eyes on a bigger prize. The thing is, nobody knows what that prize is. They only know it has something to do with the goal of her thaumaturgical research. Whoever tried to find out what it is failed. Violently. Oh, I'm sure you're going to have fun. Miss Sawinski here has just informed me of Catherine Weiss is back in town. It's safe to assume she will join our festivities. You're kidding me. She did say she'll attend the party. It's not safe to assume, it's certain. She told me she'll be here tomorrow night. Weiss. Excellent. I'd love to catch up with her. The barely concealed venom in her voice clearly suggests that, in fact, she'd hate to catch up with her. Yes, it looks like tomorrow night will be very special. But for now, I bid you adieu. And she's gone. Is there some kind of story between Aisling and Weiss that I should be aware of? You could say that. High Regent Sturbridge once attempted to call for a blood hunt on Weiss. Wow. Why? I've heard 5 different versions of the story, and all of them seem plausible. Catherine's relationship with this city is odd, to say the least. But hush for now. He's obviously trying to kill the conversation, and the appearance of Thomas Arturo gives him a perfect way out. Mr. Arturo? Ah, Al-Asmai. Keep up the good work, eh? Oh, we saw him at the end of Coteries. Of course. Thomas Arturo, an architect by trade. He's a herald, a member of Prince Panhard's inner circle, an eccentric whose thoughts seem to be 10 times faster than his words. I'll just say good night. Good night, Mr. Arturo. Ah, yes. Yes. He disappears into the night. Well, that was brief. Maybe I should stand in their way. I might force them to properly acknowledge my existence. You severely underestimate their dedication to ignoring whelps like you. And just in case you're serious, I beg of you, don't. I've been meaning to ask you this for a while now, but I've never had the opportunity. You really hate Arturo's guts, don't you? He carefully measures his diplomatic response. I have no strong feelings about Thomas Arturo whatsoever. Yeah, well, considering you're always listing positives about every local Camarilla representative under the moon, you might as well have called him a cunt.
Language, whelp. And as for Arturo, I'll share my opinion about him as soon as I come up with one that sticks for more than a week.
A group of Kindred emerges from the art hole, rushing towards the street. Only a noble-looking woman stops next to us. She's wearing a hijab, but curiously enough, doesn't hide her hair beneath it.
Primogen.
If you were rude enough to stare, you'd quickly notice the cloth serves mostly to cover up her horrifying scars. Oh, Qadir. Oh, and young Julia. I'm doing my best not to stare because Samira is one of the few NYC Camarilla figures who hasn't been an asshole to me yet.
Still here. Did the prince require the clan of the Hunt's counsel in some matter?
So we've got that added, just so you guys know about the dictionary, which is awesome. Clan Banu Hakim, which basically 5th edition's version of the Assamites. Good stuff. And they're allied with the Camarilla, the exact same faction that houses the Tremere, which if you'd played any of the previous editions, you'd be like, that would never happen. But here we are. Things change. Yes, I advised her that no matter how hard she tries, she shouldn't expect me to wear a different costume tomorrow night. She's the Banu Hakim Primogen. Just like the Lasombra, their clan was independent from the Camarilla until relatively recently. However, they negotiated a better deal than we did. They have a Primogen for one. Hailing from the Middle East, the Banu Hakim are drawn to the practice of justice. The rules must be upheld and every transgression punished. They don't have much say in NYC, but the prince often seeks their judgment. It's just good PR.
I trust she was understanding. Those are beautiful clothes.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm eager to see the outfit you came up with. And how are you, Julia? Have you seen any lights at the end of the tunnel? Yeah, I don't... man. Thing is, I'm not exactly sure how this is worded. But let's show a little bit of personality here. Yeah, I've seen one. And I'm pretty certain it's a train. Oh, sorry to hear that. I trust you're pestering the prince and your superiors to improve your standing. It's a process. Oh, Julia. You won't achieve anything if you don't keep reaching for it. Qadir, weren't you supposed to teach her the ropes?
I'm trying to, Primogen. But with this child, it's always a process.
I can only wish you good luck, then. Good night, Julia. Good night, Qadir. Good night.
Have a safe trip.
The art hole has to be almost empty by now. You like her, don't you?
Stop with your class clown act, whelp. It only serves to reveal deep insecurities.
Wow, that's harsh.
It's factual. Were I as harsh as you claim?
She did tell us both to call her Samira, but you're still keeping your distance with that Primogen shit.
Watch your profanity, and don't project your fantasies onto me. I won't give you a lesson about professional boundaries, but I suspect the only way you'll eventually learn it will be extremely unpleasant.
Carter Vander O. Am I interrupting something, good folks? Even though I'm constantly pestering him, Qadir's composure is unshaken. His response comes swift and unfazed.
Not at all, Mr. Vander Weyden. Heading back to your office?
You know me, my dear sheriff. Where else would I go? He has kind of a Willem Dafoe vibe to him. Now, that's curious. Even though Carter Vanderweyden is a Primogen as well, Malkavian to be precise, I don't hear Qadir address him as such.
Hope to see you tomorrow night.
Oh, I'll absolutely show up, provided I can, but just in case, I already apologized for not making it to the Prince, simply drowning in work these days. The rhythms, tempo, and intonation patterns of his voice are so familiar. Half of it sounds like JFK, the other half exactly like Barack Obama. Just like his appearance, it all feels so fake. He's old money, of course. Comes from a long line of Dutch merchants who originally settled in the New York region, runs a wildly successful law office, rubs elbows with elites of both kindred and kind varieties alike. He seems perfect in every way. That's why he's so unnerving. He's a child of Malkav and must be blighted with some affliction, but whatever it is, he doesn't let it show. Hard not to wonder what he's hiding.
The celebrations are planned to last all week. Surely you'll find the time.
I pray I will, my good man, I pray I will. In case you need to reach me, you know where to find me. Have a good one. He doesn't even register my presence before leaving. Sometimes I think they're all still hoping I'll simply go away. As Carter drives away in his limousine, Qadir shakes his head.
You wanted to hear about which member of the New York City's Camarilla I dislike the most?
Yes. He shoots me a knowing glance and smirks.
Too bad. They're all my dear colleagues, and I deeply respect every single one of them.
Sure you do. Wouldn't want to blurt out something that could lock you out of Mr. Vanderweyden's legal services, would you? You ass kisser.
I do expect to find myself in need of a good defense attorney when my broke, incompetent, and foul-mouthed assistant finally pushes me over the edge.
Rude. Do you still need me here? I still need to swing by St. Patrick's tonight.
Don't worry. We're almost done. The Prince is coming out.
Captain's the last person to leave the ship, huh? And there she is. Helen Panhard, the big kahuna, as someone I once knew would call her, the de facto ruler of New York City, and a self-professed patron of the arts. Qadir, a penny for your thoughts?
You should be pleased to hear the High Regent is resigned to her fate, my prince. Mr. Vanderweyden is decidedly not. I suspect you'll be too busy to join the festivities, all the week through.
Excellent. She turns to me. Miss Sawinski, weren't you supposed to accompany our good sheriff in his duties tonight?
There was an unexpected change of plans. Catherine Weiss is back in the city.
Catherine is here? Now that's a welcome surprise. But what does it have to do with you, Miss Sawinski? Let's be honest here. I took care of her paperwork. She said she didn't want to trouble you with all the paperwork regarding her arrival, Prince Panhard. It's all been taken care of. Qadir's already been informed of everything. That's certainly a nice gesture, but wait a minute now. Where exactly did you meet her?
In a fast food restaurant, my prince.
I see. Helen rubs her eyes. Catherine and her love for proletarian amusement. I suppose it'll be a source of amusing anecdotes this week.
If we want to avoid these situations in the future, it might be a good time to discuss offering Miss Sawinski an office of her own.
We'll get to it, eventually. There's more pressing matters at hand. The festivities start tomorrow, and there's still so much to be done. Will you make sure the art hole is secure before leaving?
Certainly, my prince. Have a good night.
Good night, Qadir. Good night, Miss Swinsky. We'll talk about your work soon. Don't worry. Of course. Good night, Prince Panhard. A chauffeur escorts her to a limo. There's an awkward silence between me and Qadir until the car disappears around the corner. More pressing matters, huh? A penny for your thoughts, Sheriff?
I'm certain an image of a keeper of the Elysium stuck in a fast food restaurant will linger in Prince Panhard's mind. You're far closer to your goal than you were a few minutes ago.
I'm pretty sure I've heard you say something to that effect a few times now.
And I stand by my words. Rome wasn't built in a day, Julia.
As a Camarilla loyalist, don't you think it sucks that the Ivory Tower is so hell-bent on showing disrespect to my clan? They're actually willing to make fools of themselves in the process?
We've all had to endure our own hazing rituals. But yes, the current situation is not ideal.
Whatever. You need a hand closing up the Elysium?
I'll manage. It's getting late. Better run. Some shadow in Chicago is probably impatient to get a copy of the reports you've given me. You've pleased one master. Now it's time to please the other.
Yeah, here's the thing about working for two masters. Neither of them really thinks of you as their own. Not knowing how to reply, Qadir shrugs. I wave to him goodbye and head for the subway. When I reach St. Patrick's Cathedral, I'm greeted by a voice that grates on me like teeth on tinfoil. Oh. Wow, okay. So, this was another character we met from the Toreador playthrough. Well, well, well. The prodigal daughter returns. Oh my god, no. This is the one thing I didn't want to happen. Julia, please, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Uh-huh. Where's Father Leonard? His clergy duties kept him from getting here on time. He sent me to apologize in his name and keep you company for a few minutes. That's the second thing he ought to apologize for. He just wants his flock to live in unity. Am I more than willing to oblige him? Why won't you? For the last time, I'm not a part of his flock. We have a purely professional arrangement. I know you see it that way. The Night Clan's tendency to stick close to the Catholic Church is their greatest virtue, but they still consider their relationship purely instrumental. This is why we need kindred like you to bring the spiritual change to your clan, to make them understand God's precious gifts. The closer they'd get to the light, the greater their shadows would become. Again with his insufferable sermonizing. Benoit Segal here is a local nutjob and an ex-artist, a degenerate who had some sort of complete mental breakdown in the 90s. To recover, he took to religion for solace and guidance. At first, he proclaimed his readiness to devote the rest of his unlife to studying Nautism. After a few years, though, he changed his mind and joined the Catholic Church instead. So, some quick things here. One, Benoit was kind of obsessed with the concept of true faith, and while he came off kind of as our friend in Coteries of New York, that degenerated fairly quickly, despite being a fellow Toreador. So, Nautism, as we can see here, is a religious belief and studies pertaining to the origins of Kindred and the myth of Cain, the alleged OG vampire. So, the Book of Nod, which is a very, basically the VTM's version of the Necronomicon for vampires, like the Vampiric Bible, like the sacred text. So that basically is the study of where Kindred came from, the study of Cain itself. What is his name? Beckett, who's a very well-known NPC in VTM. He was also in Bloodlines. The archaeologist. He is a very prominent skeptic and nodist. And as far as the La Sombra's attachment to the Catholic Church, the Sabbat, which was the previous, and I believe the Sabbat are also here in 5th edition, but back, I guess, at the height of their power in previous editions of VTM, a lot of their rituals were kind of a perversion of the Catholic Church. Specifically when it came to the La Sombra, there were bishops and archbishops, cardinals, all this kind of thing. Cardinal Moncada was the sire of Lucita, who was the primary La Sombra character in 3rd edition. I actually thought when I started playing this game that this black-haired girl, that Julia, was actually going to be Lucita. So that was going to be kind of interesting if that was going to be the case. But yeah, scary, like this dark perversion of faith. No more prevalent than in the La Sombra's alternate pathway, alternate morality, the Path of Night. The Path of Night basically believed that they could serve God by becoming the worst monsters imaginable. They still believed in God and still believed that they were doing God's will, but because they'd been made monsters, they were just like, all right, well, if God made us monsters, we better act like the worst monsters possible, because it's going to cause the people that we terrorize to pray and seek comfort in God for all the things that we're doing. So it was like the La Sombra were one of those clans that got very, very dark very quick, and not just from obtenebration. So as luck would have it, his neophyte zeal found a major target in me. When I first met him, I was stupid enough to tell him I was raised Catholic and still identified as such. Somewhat. He immediately pictured me as some sort of force for change within the Camarilla and set out to put me back on the righteous path. Now he won't stop preaching to me apparently until I become a nun. Remember, the darkest place is directly beneath the candle. You turncoats have this unfortunate predisposition to find salvation right within your grasp, and then lose your way in the shadows. Christ, once he starts, he just won't stop. I guess it's time to bring out the big guns. By the way, I was meaning to ask, you got any news about Sophie Langley? Oh, okay, good, we get to find out what happened. A painful grimace crosses his face, but doesn't linger. Kind of rude to change the subject, you know. Rude? I'm just looking for a topic both sides of this conversation would care about. You know, like any guide on etiquette says you should. Salvation is a topic close to anyone's heart, whether they admit it or not. And it's pretty bold of you to assume I still care about Langley. I do not assume. I'm certain you do. The second she retires from the public eye, you stop acting like Jesus era Kanye and start acting like Jesus is King era Kanye. Coincidence? I've never had a Jesus era. Do people really call it that? Here's how it's going to work. Tell me what you know, I'll tell you what they say. And keep in mind, I didn't know she was your sire until a few nights ago. Hell, I haven't even met her. He winces a bit at me saying hell, but lets it go. Sure, I figure you would have prodded that wound long ago if you knew. But what do you care, anyway? Better to let you drone on about your tormented past than to let you carry on with your good missionary shtick. Professional courtesy. Once a journalist, always a journalist. He scratches his head, then exhales in a sad mockery of a chuckle. Fine then, I'll do my best to make it short. Just like you said, Sophie Langley, every New York Kindred's beloved socialite, was my sire. We first met sometime after World War II. I left France right before the Nazis went around the Maginot Line. I struggled to keep my siblings alive with my art, watched my brother die during the flu epidemic of '43. I was close to losing my mind. And that's when she showed up. Said the sheer torment in my works caught her eye. She became my patron, allowed my talents to flourish, and supported me financially. And eventually, she embraced me. As a well-off kindred, my artistic interests started to naturally deviate from what they used to be back when I was a poor, mortal upstart. I began to see the world the way her social circle does. And that she couldn't forgive. Instead of being a fun novelty, I became just another part of the malaise surrounding her. She grew distant and then stopped seeing me altogether. I've had my share of meltdowns because of this, I won't deny that. I locked myself out of many career opportunities, but it was an important lesson. Don't trust your elders. Vampirism affects them psychologically as well. If they take interest in you, they won't stop until they suck your soul dry and then discard you like a broken toy. For the first time since I've known him, Seagal registers to me as something other than a Bible-thumping nuisance. Is it compassion I feel? Do I find him relatable? How dreadful. It's possible he's strategically trying to elicit sympathy. Maybe he heard about my dramatic exit from Lodestar. Or maybe he's just alluding to the way my sire left me here to fend for myself. It is only God who will never lead you astray. This is why I find your act so frustrating, Julia. You're so close to getting it, but you choose sin instead. There's the Benoit Seagal I know. Almost had me fooled. Now let's get back on track. And what about Langley's disappearance from the city? Her path was a road to perdition. Wherever she ended up, I doubt she's too happy about it. She had plans for the future of this city. Wanted to make it her ultimate artwork. She was always the vain one. And, of course, you're completely sure you have nothing to do with her disappearance. Now, if you remember the end of Code Elysium New York, we know what happened to Langley. I'll go ahead and keep it on the down low for right now until it's revealed in this game. But, yeah, things didn't end well for her. Please don't tell me you're getting at what I think you're getting at. Everybody says you've been acting like you're trying to repent for something ever since her vanishing act. And you've got a motive. Of course I'm getting at what you think I'm getting at. Benoit shakes his head. You really have the devil in your heart, Julia. Always testing me. Just asking what everyone's thinking. Are they now? Listen, I'm familiar with a lot of the insults attached to my name in this city. Those aren't exactly compatible with the image of a ruthless killer. Killer, huh? Now, that's interesting. I haven't said anything about killing. He scrubs his hands over his forehead and collects himself before responding. Stop picking apart every word I say in this completely unpleasant way. Here's a statement if you really want one, Miss Hercule Poirot. I do believe Sophie, the way I knew her, has met her end. Even if she's still walking this earth, she wouldn't come back here as the same prideful aristocrat. She'd have to undergo a spiritual rebirth. Someone has reminded her of her place. Her former friends talk of her in hushed voices. Even that servant play toy of her went missing. No more Camarilla parties. She's done for. Whatever happened to her, I don't know. I swear on Jesus and his sandals I had nothing to do with it. But yes, I'm still here, and she's not. And it's not a reason to gloat, but to be more humble. I received a sign from God, telling me to re-examine all of the unfortunate ways I still resemble Sophie Langley. And I listened. I rejected the pride I shared with her. I renewed my vows to God, recommitted to preaching his greatness. I mean, this is why we're having this conversation in the first place. Right now, when I think of Langley's influence on my life, I am grateful, because she was a sign that got me here. And, if God wills it, maybe one day you'll look at her the same way, Julia. Mental note. Whenever he circles back to this preachy tone, it's time to intervene. All right. If it makes you feel any better, I think that the only way a wimp like you could have hurt her was by boring her to death with Bible quotes. Now then, quid pro quo, tit for tat. You were saying people still talk about me. I was curious if... Oh, look who's finally here. Stalling for time worked. Father Leonard rushes in our direction, carrying a folder of documents under his arm. I assume it's the one I came here for. And we will find out what document that is, guys, at the beginning of the next episode. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. My throat's been a little bit strained lately. I had a throat infection recently that I'm trying to get over, so I hope it still sounded okay. But yeah, we'll go back and see what Father Leonard has to say. Now, we met Father Leonard in the last game too, so we're starting to see a lot of familiar faces pop back up. But if you guys enjoyed the episode, please leave a like down below. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, that'd be a big help. And we'll see you next time. Later days, everyone.